Hello. Joining me in studio today is Farah Ovaidula. She is in The Hague, in the Netherlands, and she has the Ocean and Us, that it's an organization that she runs. Hi, Farah. How are you?
Hi, Sol. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
It's so nice to meet you finally. I would like to start asking you about your company. Can you share with us a bit what's the focus of your company and who are you serving?
Sure. So first of all, it's not a company, but a non-profit
No,
organization. So
yeah.
we, I feel we serve both the planet and the people,
Yeah.
specifically the ocean. It's called the Ocean and Us exactly for that reason. We want to bring
Mhm.
people into the movement to protect the ocean. So often the
Mm.
ocean is seen as something that, you have to be interested or in love with the ocean or a conservationist or an environmentalist um, to feel connected to the ocean. But actually, we are all implicitly, inherently connected to the ocean. And I wanted to make that clear. And that's why I named our organization The Ocean and Us. So we never
Mm.
forget the people and our connection to the ocean.
Yeah, I love that. We're part of it. And we tend to see that we're kind of separate entities, but we are actually on it or in it. And is it anything kind of exciting in the last month, or any milestone that you have achieved that you would like to share with us?
Sure. So maybe just a bit of sort of background about the ocean and us. I mean, obviously the
Yeah.
name says it all, that it's about the ocean, and our mission is to advance ocean health, to protect the ocean, to bring people into that movement. But when I started the Ocean in Us, it was actually called Women for Oceans, which
Mm.
I called it Women for Oceans because I really wanted to explore what was different about how we are protecting the ocean. Like why are humans so different in our place in the world. And I thought, well, maybe it's we need to start looking at what makes people different. What is our diversity? What is it that we're doing so wrong compared with other species? And I was looking at it through the gender lens, and realized that, well, maybe as speaking as a biologist, maybe one of the reasons that we are um, not living in harmony with nature is because we are suppressing one half of what it means to be a human being.
Yeah.
And that is the feminine energy, the feminine perspectives. So, not just woman or man, but really that feminine energy. And I think that it really applies to the ocean because the ocean is such a collective space. It belongs to all of us.
Mm.
And it's what unites us, and it's what sustains life on Earth. And so, I started this organization as Women for Oceans. Women for Oceans is a platform that still runs, it still exists as a project under the Ocean and Us, but I changed the
Yeah.
name to the Ocean and Us in 2023 to make it a more inclusive name, because again, I don't want to leave out any human beings in this mission to protect the
Yeah.
ocean. But coming back to your question about what is something, or in the last year, I think your question was, what is
Yeah,
something.
like recently, that anything exciting that you would like to share?
Well, I'm excited. Well, there's many things to be excited about. First of all, from speaking sort of holistically about the ocean, we now have a treaty that
Yes.
protects wildlife, that protects life beyond national borders. So that's the
Mm.
BBNJ treaty, Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction. This has been an ongoing sort of campaign for 20 years to get this treaty in place. And now it is finally international law as of January this year. And that's very exciting because it allows us to really think about and apply protection in our global commons. And the high
Mm.
seas, that's all the ocean beyond national jurisdiction. That translates to about half our planet. So that's, I suppose, the most exciting thing that has happened for the ocean globally in the last few months.
Yeah.
And then talking specifically about the ocean and us, I would say that we are very proud that although we're very small, we're a very agile organization, and we managed to collect almost 350,000 signatures from around the world of people calling for a moratorium on deep sea mining.
Hmm.
And we also have a declaration with over 170 organizations and businesses and institutions that also support a moratorium around on deep sea mining. And we
Yeah.
submitted both of these manifestos to the International Seabed Authority last year. So we're proud of that. And we're also proud that we are finally an observer to the International Seabed Authority. So we're able to bear witness to the negotiations happening there, but also to intervene and provide interventions when we think we have something important to say.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that I really admire your work, and I really find super interesting your profile as a scientist and an activist and now a founder of an NGO. Can you just share briefly about your journey, like from science to where you are now?
Sure. So I mean, I've always been fascinated by the ocean since as far back as I can remember. I am lucky that I grew up by the sea in different places, but mostly here in The Hague in the Netherlands, and so I always felt that connection to the ocean. And I would say, I mean, I was in love with the ocean. I couldn't explain it. I was a small child, but I would always run to the sea, to the shoreline, and watch, watch the horizon, watch the angry, moody waves of the North Sea, but also the skies above the North Sea, and always wonder, what lies beneath the waves and what
Yeah.
lies beyond the horizon. And that always fascinated me. And I lived in different countries with my parents, and I always had this kind of curiosity about the
Mm.
sea. And my parents encouraged that curiosity, and because this was in the 1980s, they at the time, what do you do if you are fascinated by the ocean? You study marine biology. That was sort of the thing that you do. And so I did. I went off to university and I studied biology with a focus on the ocean, and then subsequently environmental technology, also focused on the ocean. Um, and then and then it was difficult to find work, and especially at that time, you graduate and you need to quickly get onto the job market. And
Yeah.
I ended up working as an environmental consultant for the private sector, doing environmental due diligence and environmental impact assessments and environmental audits. And whilst I learned a lot in that space, including about offshore, for example, the offshore world in general, but also
Mm.
what the impacts of the offshore oil industry are for the ocean. But I decided after 4 years of doing that job that I really wasn't living my dream. My dream was the ocean and learning about it and protecting it. So I redirected my career towards ocean conservation, ocean campaigning. And so in 2004, I joined an NGO called Seas at Risk, where I worked as a coordinator, but I also worked uh, part-time for the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition, working on deep sea issues, particularly deep sea bottom trawling on the high seas. And yeah, and that's where my career sort of took off, and then ended up with Greenpeace for 11 years as an ocean campaigner,
Yeah.
traveling the world, seeing the most beautiful places, but also, some of the most horrific things that we do to our
Yeah.
oceans. I was bearing witness to that. And in that entire sort of journey, I started thinking, as I was saying earlier, what is it that we humans do that's so at odds with nature
Yeah.
and with other species? And that's where I started to look at, well, the thing is, we're not even living in harmony with ourselves because we don't listen or engage or acknowledge one half of what it means to be a human being. And so that's where that journey into Women for Ocean started, and now The Ocean and Us. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. Very inspiring. And well, the next question is about your legacy. Like looking ahead, like when you think years in the future, like what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Whew, that's I've never really considered that. For many people, it's maybe their children or their grandchildren or and so on. I don't have either, but I I think the best we can do individually is just lead the best lives that we can, and that might not sort of translate into a legacy like it might for a famous person, for a celebrity, or for a president, or for a high profile individual. I believe that everybody leaves a legacy just by the everyday interactions, just by the everyday gestures, and just by the everyday effort we make into making this world a better place. And even though I might not know what that legacy is, I'm sure that just by the people I've spoken to and continue speaking to, I hope at least I inspire and
Yeah.
energize and transfer knowledge. And I
Mm.
hope that in that way, that leaves a legacy which is multiplied, because it, I believe that we all build on we all sort of build on the shoulders of the people that came before us. So I think none of us can take credit for a single achievement. Um, we're all the success of everybody around us and everybody before us. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
a legacy, it's a hard thing to
Yeah.
consider. I'm only, I hope, only halfway through my
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah. And I think it's well, for me, like I feel your energy, and I feel, your commitment, and I will say is the ocean and us, as your contribution, or that's the way I see it, like inspiring on this strong commitment and determination, maybe stubbornness to pursue something that you've been working for years, and the resilience to continue fighting for something that it's kind of um, it's been waking up suddenly, but it's been how many years of fight, and from different places that you've been attacking that. And
Mm.
I guess the ocean and us is it's very simple, but it's very strong, um, that we are together in this, and we need to protect it to keep living ourselves.
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
that's yeah, and I feel the joy of what you're doing, and it's inspiring. So yeah.
Thank
Uh,
you. I do think that, we have to, each one of us is on our own individual journey, and we have to pursue that thing that gives us energy and that gives us joy, because, there's so many setbacks in life as it is, and so many challenges and hurdles to overcome, that
yeah.
the only way to keep going is to really believe in what you do. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I love it. And also, like, is it my next question is about your purpose and drive, but it's very clear where you're standing. And I just want to rewind a bit. If you have a moment that sparked you to become a founder in the first place, like, is there a defining moment for this?
um, no defining moment for becoming a founder per se. I mean, it really was. So, I mean, I guess I for me, being a founder, or a director, founder, it wasn't really on my sort of
Yeah.
ambition. It
Yeah.
wasn't one of my ambitions, but it was more that I recognized a gap in how we are approaching ocean conservation. And I
Mm.
suppose at the time I was working for a television production company, and I was a consultant producer, and I was brought on because I have this encyclopedic knowledge, of the ocean, or that's how they
Yeah.
characterized me when they were fundraising, and so they really wanted me to be on the team. But what I noticed was that every storyline that they wanted that they pursued involved a man, and then also a certain demographic, a white man. This is not about bashing white men at all. These were all fantastic men doing
Mm.
amazing work, but every storyline involved a white man, and whether it was slavery at sea in Indonesia, or shark finning in the Pacific, or dynamite fishing in East Africa, it was always a white man as the sort of hero of the story. And
Yeah.
coming from a campaigning background, I thought, but how are we actually shifting the needle? How are we changing anything? How are we bringing about awareness if we're
Mm.
not speaking to the people that we are trying to reach? And there are plenty of examples of local heroes
Yeah.
that we should be elevating, and that we should be putting the spotlight on, because
Mm.
that's where you will see behavioral shift, if we
Mm.
really spotlight the people on the ground doing the work, not just fly people in to tell a story and you know, be portrayed as a hero, then
Yeah.
you're only reaching that audience, that demographic that the TV company is trying to reach, but you know, which is their motivation. But for me as a campaigner, my motivation is I want to see change on the water,
Yeah.
and so that's how I started Women for Oceans. It just started as a Facebook group. I started to, you know, it was like, well, this is not my reality. I know so many amazing women around the world that do so many
Yeah.
incredible things. And so I just invited them all to this Facebook group, and that's actually how it was born. It wasn't because I wanted to be a founder, but then a philanthropic organization, they wanted to give a bit of money to help with this initiative, and so I had to establish Women for Oceans as an NGO, and so that's actually how maybe the defining point at which
Yeah.
Women for Oceans became established, and now, of course, it's called The Ocean and Us. But that's you know the
Yeah, but
background.
it was kind of creating community.
Yes.
That was kind of your mission, and then you move forward into kind of include and make it a bit more diverse, not only for women, but for anyone who would like to be close to the ocean or aware of the ocean. So yeah, I love
Right,
it.
and that's another really sort of key point for me was the
Mm.
inclusive bit, right? I was giving many talks, and I did, you know, I always made the point that you don't need to be a marine biologist or have worked for Greenpeace to come into action, to act for the
Yeah,
ocean. You can
yeah,
come from any background, and I also felt that in my career, I find that the ocean space is rather elitist. It is
yeah,
not very accessible. All these ocean conferences are basically inaccessible to most people, and it's still very much again a certain you know, demographic that attends these conferences. And I felt that, you know, it if we want to save the ocean, we need everybody on board, and it shouldn't matter where you're from, what you do, what level of education you have. Everybody should be welcome into this space and learning about something that is so actually in integral to who every single being is. And I really want to pass on that you know, that access and that knowledge about the ocean to people.
yeah. And it's very funny because we've been talking about this, about the relationship with the environment, that we see the environment as an entity over there that we need to protect, but the environment is in us. And
Right.
also, like, um we kind of need to remember that, like, maybe, I don't know, where we forgot that we are that. It sounds a bit philosophical, but it's just like, it's not separate things, like, it's
Yeah.
just a whole.
I mean,
um
there's some interesting theories about that, and I don't know where the root cause of this issue is, but there's an excellent book called Sacred Nature by Karen
yeah,
Armstrong, and that kind of tries to explore a little bit, you know, where we left nature behind when actually in even in the origins of all the major religions and probably non-major religions, but the you know, the nature was divine. And it wasn't until we started looking to the heavens um, for divinity, you know, for where, you know,
mhm,
to the stars, for where there might be a heaven and where God might be. Um, you know, at that point when we decided to do that, not look around us, but look into the sky. At that point, we lost touch with nature. We decided nature was not so important. What was important was how our perceived God viewed us. And whereas before that point in time, it was, and I'm paraphrasing right from this book, but it was really interesting. But apparently, in every major religion, nature was what was divine, and we treated nature differently as well. And you know,
yeah,
at some point, we lost that, and um, I think it's really important that we get back to that because
mm.
it's the only, you know, we just saw the moon, the trip to the moon, right,
I
around the
know.
moon, and the view from space, looking at Earth,
Yeah,
and the comments from the astronauts, and really, we are a floating sort of lifeboat in this vast cosmos, and there is nothing like Earth anywhere else that we know of, and yet the way we treat our only home is something that is just clearly not sustainable. We see that. But
yeah,
but people just don't know. We've been indoctrinated and told to live life a certain way. And we need to go back to understanding that we are nature, we are part of nature, and without nature, we will not continue to exist.
Yeah. We don't need to go to the moon to see how beautiful our planet is. Like
No,
it's
but it maybe helps to look back at Earth and see, wow, only that it's a giant swimming pool. You know, the
yeah.
Earth is just ocean, and if you
Yeah.
look at it from that view, you realize that there's no way that any of us cannot appreciate, if we see that, how important and influential the ocean is in our daily lives. Even if we don't feel it, it's
Yeah.
always there.
Yeah. Totally agree. 100%. And with regards your door openers, like nobody builds alone. And is there anyone who believed in you on early on, like any specific partners or customers or mentors or friends, or
Hmm.
how was your journey there?
So again, in I suppose in the 1980s, there wasn't advocacy and conservation and all of that. So my biggest advocates or my biggest supporters have always been my parents.
Yeah.
They supported my interest, they supported my studies, and they supported every sort of change of kind of direction that I had,
Mm.
because they always told me to just, that as long as I believe in what I'm doing, then I will make it work.
Mm.
And of course, you know, I think the biggest door opener is that, right? Is that privilege,
Mm.
the privilege of having parents that supported me, the
Mm.
privilege of having, that coming from a family that had the financial means to
Yeah.
support my journey, my studies.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, and so I fully appreciate my privilege to be able to do the things that I do. I think that's the biggest door opener that I've had, and everything else along the way. Yeah, I mean, I could probably mention. It's, I mean, there's. I mean, every job that I've had is because somebody opened a door, but that's because I also was, confident in my ability to do that job. So I think it is a two way street. Um, we shouldn't depend too much on doors opening for us. It should be a dual sort of effort
Yeah.
that, you know uh, you unfortunately you need connections in this world, and you need people to lift you up and to open doors for you. That's a reality, and I hope through my initiatives and my work and my mentoring that I do that for people around me. But at the same time, we really, as individuals, need to show up, the best version of ourselves, and try the best that we can, and be really true to ourselves. And I think when those two things align, then doors open,
Yeah.
and we reach our goals. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Appreciation for our upbringing and our access to education and support from our families. It's also like a given, but it's huge,
It's huge.
that otherwise we wouldn't be able to be where we are. So a big thank you for all the parents around the world that
Yeah, and I'm
support.
sure for many other people, it could be friends, it could be,
Yeah, yeah,
it could be professors. Um, I think every person is unique. For me, I would say my parents, and I've just been very lucky throughout my career, having
mm,
great colleagues and great, you know,
yeah,
professors and so on. Yeah.
yeah, fantastic. And if we talk about momentum, if everything was aligned, who are the ideal partners, customers, or investors that you would love to have on board next? Like
Right.
thinking what kind of support or resources will help you to accelerate to your next stage?
Well, because what I do is very much a passion project, funding has not always been the sort of has not always come easy, but it also hasn't been something that I have. Um, I wouldn't say prioritized, because I look at how can I spend my day? I can spend my day trying to get things done, or I can spend my day fundraising. And unfortunately, and maybe this rings true for listeners, fundraising it takes an enormous amount of time and
Mm,
effort, and is actually almost always met with a rejection. Again, unless doors open for you, and unless you have that privilege and that connection, And as a small NGO, that just isn't a luxury that I have, that funding comes naturally or easily to our organization. We have amazing plans, and we do amazing sort of, we have amazing impact. And in this next sort of stage, I'm very excited about, our projects going forward, particularly on deep sea mining. And we have and also the High Seas Treaty that I was talking about, that this kind of historic opportunity we now have to protect areas on the high seas. We have a project that we are looking for. We're looking for investors. I guess funders would be the correct term, but I also would say investors, because the impact, I think, will serve us all, and so that's an investment in and of itself. I don't know if you want me to go into the details of that project, but
yes, please. Because
yes.
that's my next question. Like, what is your biggest hurdle, and it's also kind of figuring out how the tool community. So all the wave makers that are listening, how can the community support you on this?
Mm-hmm. So, as you know, the deep sea, it's a very difficult part of our planet to bring to life to audiences, right? It's so far away from us. The threat of deep sea mining is in, if it happens, it will happen at 4 to 6 kilometers deep in the ocean, out in the middle of the high seas. So it's really difficult to engage people on something that seems so far away from their daily lives. And at the same time, we have this opportunity with the treaty to get areas protected on the high seas. And so we identified an area which, has long been understood to be an important, ecologically important area, particularly for science. It's called the Lost City. This is an area in the Atlantic Ocean, which it's an area that sits on the side of a seamount, an underwater seamountain. And it is, we only discovered in 2000 by a woman scientist. And it's a sort of these white chimneys that rise up from the deep, from about 4 kilometers to about 750 meters below sea level. And this area is really unique. It's apparently the only place on Earth of its kind. So whereas we do have more hydrothermal vent systems in our ocean that we have that we know of, we have never encountered a sort of white chimney, sort of smoker, sort of hydrothermal vent field. And so this is unique, and scientists speculate it might be where life on Earth began, because the chemistry is conducive to the origins of life. So this area has been earmarked also by UNESCO, but also by scientists, that it should be one of the places that we set aside as a high seas marine protected area. At the same time, this area is vulnerable because it sits near a zone that has been where there is an exploration license given by the International Seabed Authority to start exploring there, and potentially to start deep sea mining. So not on the Lost City itself, but in an adjacent area. And as we know, with deep sea mining, this will happen. The devastating impacts of deep sea mining will spread to areas far from the mining site itself, and so could potentially impact the Lost City. The Lost City, as the name suggests, is just such an amazing, inspiring sort of space to learn about the deep sea. It is, it invokes all kinds of, at least for me, but the imagination. What lives in this Lost City? What treasures can be found there? What unique animals have we not discovered? It's more lively, let's say, from a communications and storytelling perspective, than perhaps other parts of the deep sea that might be equally important, like the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, where the imminent sort of threat for deep sea mining is. But this Lost City is, I think, a great poster child for what the deep sea, for the mystery of the deep sea, for the undiscovered value of the deep sea, for why we still, need to keep learning, and why we can't afford to destroy the deep sea. So for me, the Lost City is a great sort of candidate for a campaign where we can highlight the importance of the deep sea and why we shouldn't start deep sea mining in our global commons, and also to highlight the need that areas like this need to be protected urgently under the new High Seas Treaty. So it's a storytelling communication campaign.
Yeah.
We have Terrain culture. So coming back to the name, The Ocean and Us, we want to bring everybody into this campaign, and so we're trying to work with artists, in particular musicians, visual artists, and also the sporting world, to bring this area to life. Because, as I said, it's really sort of it lends itself to our fantasy, because we don't know anything about it, not much anyway. So when we ask a visual artist to think about what is in the lost city, it could be anything, because we don't know that it isn't true. Anything is plausible. Draw and I'm really bad at drawing, but whatever I draw could actually be something that's living in the deep sea, because it's so unknown and there's still so much we have to learn about it. And so very specifically what this platform, so it's called the Lost City Interactive Platform, and the idea is that you navigate into the Lost City online. You can click on different things, learn about, I don't know, the different animals or different topographical features. Or if you click on the submarine, you'll hear a soundbite from a scientist, or you can click on a sunken treasure. And so that way you learn about the lost city, and then you're encouraged to submit your art. That could be music, that could be drawing. And if you really don't want to do art, you can also do a small donation. But with each submission, a tile in this platform is flipped and turns color, and is a symbol, sort of of protection, so symbolic of protection. So the more submissions we have, the more symbolic protection this area has, and then we can take that to the international ocean meetings, for example, the International Seabed Authority, but also the first conference of parties for the High Seas Treaty, and show that there is a global appetite for this area to be protected, and there's a global appetite not to not begin deep sea mining. And so it's more interactive and engaging than a petition. People will be encouraged to return to the platform to see how their art is valued, because there'll be an online gallery. And we will also work with schools, the EU Blue Schools Network, for example, developing educational materials about the high seas and the deep sea, and then encouraging pupils to submit art. So all of this is, we're very excited about this, but we're looking for investors. So I'll be very upfront about that. And then a phase 2 for this project would be actually going to the Lost City with with maybe an art residency, music and visual, because, as I said, it's not that deep. The top of the Lost City is not as deep as other places in the deep sea, so it's quite sort of accessible, with the right type of equipment to record sound, visuals with ROVs, and in that way contribute to science. So it's really bringing science and art together, and then celebrating what is actually our global commons, and this is our chance to prevent a disaster from starting, but also to help secure one of the first protected areas on the high seas.
What an amazing approach! It's really because it's waking up the curiosity. Like, it's an invitation for curiosity and to learn about this visually, because it's like the deep sea is the darkness, right? Like, even creatures we haven't even seen, but by getting curious about it, you get a little bit of light to see it or imagine it, and contribute and collaborate and take part of it as a movement. And with the Ocean Opportunity Lab, we are 100% on board with your mission with regards the stopping deep sea mining. So we are very I'm really amazed with this idea, and we would love to find ways to kind of support your initiative. So the calling is for investing to start this project. That sounds amazing. And when you were talking about musicians, and I saw that you were with Jacob Collier,
Yes.
And it will be so cool that he could write like his, incredible creativity to come with, um, like compose about the deep sea. Like,
Absolutely. I heard him play in London in January, and no, he's an amazing artist. He was also absolutely enthralled and inspired by this
yeah,
plan.
yeah.
Um, there are many artists, when I present this to them, they want to get involved. So we already have a list of artists that want to get involved,
Mm,
including, one of our ambassadors is Brian Eno, music legend Brian Eno, and he's a big supporter of our project to protect the lost city and to stop deep sea mining. And all of this sort of access to these musicians, I would have to, I'd be remiss not to mention Earth Percent. They are one of the few funders that we have, and they leverage the music industry for climate and ocean action, which is basically the same thing, because the ocean action is climate action. So yeah, and we want to expand this also to visual artists. We're in discussions with a few of those, with a few of them, and but really open it up to the world, right? But
yeah.
through having some high profile artists, we're able to really spread that message to their audiences, because it is a cultural thing, and we're inviting artists to respond uh, with their sort of culture to
Mm,
this calling to protect our collective ocean, the high
yeah.
seas, our shared heritage.
And it's kind of calling from creative, from it's a calling for creativity, for visualizing it.
Right.
We can see it with tools and, going in the depth, but it's also an opportunity to have, a trip to your own imagination, or, what it is, the deep sea. What can you
Well,
find in?
yeah, exactly. I mean, coming back to the point I made earlier about, you don't need to be a marine biologist
No.
or a Greenpeace activist to save the ocean. I think the deep sea is the perfect setting for that, because we know so little about the deep sea that none of us can possibly, we're not wrong about, yeah, about what could lie in the deep ocean. So if someone were to ask me to draw a whale, I'd be kind of intimidated. I'd be scared. Am I going to draw it correctly? Am I going to put the right number of fins or whatever? As if I was not a biologist. Um, but with the deep sea, anything is possible, and that's what's so
Yeah.
amazing about this part of the world. Who knows what lives down there? So we really can tap into our imagination, our creativity, and think, oh, I'm going to imagine that this particular creature, animal lives down there, and then you draw it. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, it's engaging for everybody. Even if you
Of
cannot
course.
draw, you make music, and you can create sounds that you think represent the ocean, or there's so many ways that you can sculpt, or you can craft something. But there's so many ways that you can just allow yourself to imagine, what does the deep sea look like, and what does it mean to you? And so yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very personal, very universal, and it's kind of draw infinity. Like, how do you, put in music the infinite? And I love it. Can we participate even though we're not artists?
Yeah, of course, it's open to everyone. I mean, once we have the investment and we have the platform up and running,
Yes,
it'll be open to everyone. No, the professional artists are just to help amplify this, but
of
it's
course. Okay.
really open to everyone. And like I mentioned, school student, pupils. But I mean, I cannot draw to save my life. But even I could maybe post a picture of some, even a photo or something that I believe
Yeah.
um, depicts the deep sea. And the thing is that with each submission, a tile is flipped and symbolizes the protection of that area. And I think that's a really sort of visually strong
Mm,
imperative to take to decision makers and say, look, these people, they didn't just sign a petition that takes them 2 seconds to do. No, they were invested in this. They are invested in this area. They want to see it protected. They don't want to see deep sea mining begin. And let's be honest, the high seas belong to you, they belong to me. So actually, we are the custodians. We decide what gets to happen there, not a handful of greedy companies that want to turn our deep sea into wastelands and want to turn a profit. We decide this. And I think that's where this project can really unify us, bring us together, and it doesn't matter where you're from. We're not, we are all fighting for the same thing. We're not telling one country what they can and can't do. We're talking and speaking on behalf of our shared planet, our shared heritage, the high seas.
Yeah. So we become all kind of gardens of the deep sea.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Very nice. And then moving on to strength through vulnerability. Like in the Wave Makers podcast, we always like to kind of explore a bit the human side of your leadership. So, is there any personal or professional challenge that really shaped you on this journey? And if so, how did you work around it? What did you learn? Um,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's as you know, I didn't have time to prepare for today, so I will think. I mean, there's many examples, and I'm sure everybody has. If we really think back, we have hundreds of examples that shaped who we are today, and I think we all start off vulnerable. We continue that vulnerability, but with each with each hurdle we come across, we encounter, we get stronger. And so for me, I mean, the fact that I'm a woman was probably not a hurdle because my parents were so supportive of my journey and my dreams. And so, but I would say that a hurdle for me has been my identity I never thought of it when I was younger, but certainly in this polarized world, identity as a woman of color, a woman with a Muslim name. These have all been obstacles for me. Quite literally being told that my name is too complicated for press releases or I don't fit the picture. One philanthropic organization told me I don't fit the picture. What's the picture? Again, a white man saving the ocean, so it cannot be me. These are very real sort of hurdles and challenges that I've had to overcome, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I think that I wouldn't say they were my vulnerabilities because they've turned out to be my strengths, because I've learned to believe that to believe in myself. Okay, if others won't believe in me because I have a different name or different, skin color, it actually has turned into my superpower, if you like, because I don't let anything stop me. And I just stay true to who I am and what I want to achieve in this world for the ocean. And then either people, join me or they don't. But I would say that has been it's a vulnerability turned into strength.
yeah.
Even if it means some opportunities are not given to me, I think that it has made me a stronger, more assertive woman. So I have found other ways to access, spaces that I want to be in, even if the doors were not automatically opened for me. I've
Yeah.
pushed my way into this world, and I
Yeah.
have no intention of leaving it.
Yeah. No. Well done. And I totally see that and support that. I'm also kind of like, I'm from Mexico and I've been living in Europe, now in Norway. And it's an interesting journey to see that who you are is it's already adding so much value that you don't need to change, you don't need to adapt, you just need to be standing truly in who you are. But sometimes it's really hard, or to get to know you in certain phases of life. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's and those are things that you don't even realize you're doing, but it's just when you look back at your life's journey, you realize that those are the things that you did, and those are the things that got you to where you are now. So it's
Yeah.
not as easy, if I were to speak to somebody much younger than me, I wouldn't expect them to look at my journey and be able to apply those, apply that to their life, albeit differently, because everyone's journey is unique. But it's something that you do or you don't do, but it's only with hindsight that you can sort of see, okay, how did I get to where I am? you
Yeah.
know, what were those challenges? You can't foresee those or predict those challenges. You don't know what they are until you encounter them, until you have to deal with them, and then
Mm.
you deal with them. And then each time you deal with one of those challenges, you become a stronger person, even though you don't know it yourself. It's not like you
Yeah.
come out of it and think, "No, I'm stronger today." No, you've just dealt with it, and then you just get on with your life
Yeah.
and your mission.
Yeah. Follow the mission and the strength of your purpose. That would be a good advice for someone who is kind of maybe experiencing similar kind of challenges as
Yes.
you do. Hmm.
Yeah, and my challenge could be dressed up completely differently for another person. It might not be about a Muslim name, but it might be, I don't
Hmm.
know, some other challenge. But I think, like you said as well, as long as I think the important thing, and I was saying this yesterday to a mentee or mentee, a volunteer, that she approached me about some ideas that she's looking for a film. But anyway, I was talking to her and also saying to her, the most important thing, because she asked me, how, you're so strong and confident in what you do, and I said, well, but the thing is, as long as you are playing to your strength, as long as you're true to yourself, first of all,
Mm. Mm.
absolutely true to who you are, show up as the best version of that, and play to your strengths, right? Because each one of us has strengths,
Yeah.
and then play to those strengths. Then you'll see, you'll find peace. You'll find
Mm.
peace in who you are, even if not everything works out. You might not get all the funding, you might not get all the recognition, people might make your life difficult, but you've stayed true to yourself. You know what your journey and your path is, and you know where you have skills and strength, and you use those to further your purpose, your mission. And I think then nothing else can come in and disturb that. I mean, yeah,
Yeah. Nobody can disturb your inner peace if you're standing on that.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's very strong. And I totally see that. Yeah. And I think we all women, I don't know if it's also a men thing, but we all should trust on us a little bit more.
mm,
Um, that we sometimes need certain validation from outside, when you could validate yourself, and then, yeah, external
exactly.
validation will come or not, but it's okay.
Yeah,
What
and
makes
that's exactly, and we all do that. It's human nature, right? We're a social
Mhm.
species, so of course we look for validation outside of ourselves. But absolutely, validation has to come from within first, I think, and then the rest will follow. And
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, you're never going to make everyone happy. You're never going to please everyone.
No.
But as long as you're pleasing
It's
yourself,
mission impossible. So
exactly.
making
you know,
peace with that as well is a
yeah,
good thing. Yeah,
yes.
great. And we're building an ecosystem together. And what kind of support, knowledge, or resources can you offer to the entrepreneurs in the community?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I mean, I'm very open to talking with people. I'm very open to sort of seeing where I can help individuals. I think everybody I've worked with can sort of testify to that. So I remain, I like that. It's what I enjoy doing, is helping people. Very specifically, we are upgrading our Women for Oceans platform. It'll be launched, I think, in May, or anyway in the summer.
Yeah.
And this platform is open to women in all spaces: women in the blue economy, women in ocean sports, women in ocean policy and governance and law, and of course conservation and science, um, and also ocean art. So really, it's a space where we don't want it to just be us. Like you said, we have to support each other. It's a collaboration. It's just a tool that will allow us to talk about ocean issues, share information. Because it's one of the reasons why I set up Women for Oceans, was because, if you're trying to save sharks in Senegal, for example, right? You might not know exactly where to turn, but through our network and our directory, you can find um, people working on shark protection in the UK or the Bahamas or the Philippines, and then that way you kind of foster that network, you foster that community of people working towards the same goal in different countries, and
Yeah.
it takes away this need to look for formal sort of collaborations between institutions, for example, but really just as people. Hey, I want to set up a campaign. I want to write to my minister. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then learn from how did they do it in the Bahamas? Maybe they have a template letter you can adapt for your government, or how did they do it in the UK? So I believe that way we accelerate ocean solutions.
Yes.
So we take away the formality of it, because
Yeah.
it shouldn't be formal,
Agree.
and that we really sort of bring people together quickly and informally, so that they can just get stuff done. Because one of the things that is characteristic of women and of the feminine, so I'm not excluding the men here, but it's really, we just like to roll up our sleeves and get stuff done, and that is what we need quickly, like in the ocean and environmental space. So that's something where I would encourage people listening to join our platform. I mean, it's you can already register on the Women for Oceans webpage, but we want to sort of be easier when the upgraded version has gone live. Then that way
Yeah.
we can invite everybody to join, and you can choose which thread or which community you want to be part of, so that you're not drowning in information from different communities or different topics. So yeah, I sort of
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very excited about that, and that's
Yeah.
something
It
that
sounds super exciting. So this
yeah,
is an invitation for all the women in the
yes.
ocean to kind of collaborate and join and kind of interact.
And this is something I would love to explore with you as well, and
Of
the
course.
Ocean Lab, and talk about that, because it's we're talking to different women-led ocean networks, because it shouldn't just be it should be
Yeah.
again a global shared space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are open for that conversation, and we can facilitate that whenever the page is ready and whenever you want to kind of communicate about it. It's also like the tool platform is accessible, is free, is for everyone, like to
Yes. Hmm.
to share these kind of initiatives. I think it's very valuable, and just to bring it up um
Yeah.
to everybody to see and contribute. So yeah,
No,
I'm
it'll
in.
be free, and it'll be access. So there will be a members platform, so you sign up as a member, but there will also be a sort of public facing side to it, the map, which we already have, but it'll be in a different format, so that conference organizers, or people looking for experts in a given field, can also find women easily on that platform, either by searching by key search term, sort of,
Yeah.
IUU fishing, or deep sea mining, or policy,
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
blue economy, fisheries, whatever, or region or city, so that you can also find like-minded people in your either like-minded people in your region, in your town,
Mm.
or as I was saying earlier, find sort of kind of like-minded or experts or potential colleagues in different parts of the world that you want to connect with.
Perfect. I'm all ears when you're ready to
Yes.
talk about this. It's very aligned to what we're doing, and we love this kind of enhancing each other's work. Like
Mhm.
that's the way it should be.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the only way. It's really
That's the
the
only way.
yeah.
And then moving to the next question, which is championing another
Mhm.
woman or women. Um, uh, we would like to kind of highlight a female founder that you would like us to feature next, or someone that you, um, yeah, want to bring some visibility. How, who,
Yeah.
why?
It's a difficult question, because there are so many women, amazing women, um, of all levels and backgrounds, doing amazing work for the ocean. So there's not a single person that stands out, to be honest, because
Yeah.
yeah, and not because they are not amazing, but because there are so many of them, and I
Mm.
feel like um, we always reach for the same women in this world, in this space, there's
Yeah.
actually only, I would say, at least to my knowledge, like not even a handful, maybe one or two women that are always um, put forward as champions for the
Yeah.
ocean. And I think that that's also a mistake,
Yeah.
um, because, as I said before, we cannot do it alone, and none of us do it alone. And I don't like this whole sort of putting people on a pedestal and then um, this sort of celebrity status, because then we forget and we ignore and we neglect the many other people doing amazing work that maybe do not have the same access to social media or the same access to to a podcast like this, but and also because right now I can like no, I cannot think of a specific name. I would be happy to get back to you on it,
Yeah.
because I would encourage you to look at the Women for Oceans directory for
Yeah.
inspiration of women that are doing amazing work. Think of a topic that you love, whether it's plastics or art or or advocacy or activism, and explore, like learn about, well, which are the women working in this field. I was a part of a book called Women Ocean Champions that was
Yeah.
published just a few weeks ago, as part of the EU co-funded Win Big project, elevating
Mm.
women in the blue economy. And in that book, there's 100 women. There's 100 of us are featured in that book. And I think it's a fraction of the number of women there are. But and so I'm always just
Yeah.
amazed, not amazed, I suppose, but always, there's just so many of us, and that's what's also so beautiful,
Yeah.
and that's why I love this initiative of yours to to highlight all the different and amazing women, because we need to do that. We need to and lift each other up.
Yeah. Agree. And I think it's a very nice kind of reflection of saying it's not only one, it's all of us. And so we celebrate the women in the ocean today
Yeah, I
with
think,
you.
yeah, I think so. And if, perhaps if there was, and maybe this would be a nice exercise to do online or something like this. But, if I had to name like my favorite ocean author, or, a woman author who writes about the ocean, my favorite ocean artist, or my favorite ocean, that's what I mean, where it's so difficult for me to name one single name. I'm like, wow, there's like so many names going through my
Yeah.
head. Um, for different disciplines, right? For different areas of the ocean, and
Mm.
and that's what also makes it so amazing. The ocean is such a big space, and whether you're a technologist or a scientist or an engineer or artist or a filmmaker or journalist or author, it's there's so many disciplines. Yeah,
Yeah. Agree. Very nice. I like that, championing all the women.
yeah.
And finally,
Hmm.
looking at the next generation, what advice would you give to young talent entering the industry, or yourself entering the industry? What skills, what kind of mindset do you believe will matter the most in the years ahead?
um I think authenticity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I talked about earlier as well. um Trust in yourself, believe in yourself. And I think, particularly as we go forward in this kind of strange AI world,
Mm.
that's going to be um, a strength. That's going to be something that will set you apart from whatever is going to happen and come next. But we already see, when people write using AI or whatever, you can already
Mm.
tell that it's AI. And I personally lose interest because the human touch is lost. You
Mm.
don't feel the human being behind the writing. And I think that's going to be true across everything, art, and even sort of the pursuit of science and knowledge comes
Mm.
from human curiosity.
Yeah.
So you have to be, in the first instance, sort of authentically curious
Mm.
yourself, and authentically, writing or communicating yourself. And I think then you've got something unique and a selling point. And so, yeah, I think that's my biggest advice, is really, and I said it earlier too, but stay true to who you are. Don't give up. Sounds very cliche. It's difficult sometimes, especially if you have bills to pay. But if you, I do think that if you look at what you're interested in, what is it that makes you smile? What is it that gives you joy? And if you do that using the strengths that you have, whatever they may be, then that is a recipe for success. Success is not how many zeros you have in your bank account or how many cars or whatever you own. Success is your fulfillment and your inner peace. That's success.
Yeah, I'm for it. Very nice. Do you have anything else to add to the podcast?
No, I mean, if you haven't already, please do go to theoceanandus.org and sign our petition against deep sea mining. If you're a business or an organization or institution, do endorse the deep sea mining declaration and sign up to our newsletter, because we will have this artists sort of pledge up very soon. And again, if you are interested in investing in our Lost City initiative, then please be in touch. I think it's going to be an amazing way to bring us all together and celebrate the ocean and the high seas.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for the work you're doing. And we look forward to continue this and get stronger together. And to everybody listening, thank you so much for being with us. And Farah, we'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. I'm just going to stop.